Hey guys, this is Dr. Yu, and welcome to TEAS Review for Science. Let me introduce myself real quick. I have a master's degree in zoology and a PhD in environmental toxicology. And this is why my students call me Dr. Yu. So it's really from my PhD and has nothing to do with a medical doctor. I started teaching in 2016, and I have been teaching biology and anatomy and physiology. I have also taught TEAS review for science before, so I'm pretty familiar with TEAS. A few tips before we start. It's best if you have a textbook, okay? AMP textbook, biology textbook, especially if you have never taken a course before. All right, so it's very helpful, and I think most of the time students get really good score if they have taken those courses, especially anatomy and physiology course. But if you have never done that before or you don't have time to do it, that's totally okay. I have seen students who got very high score, even though they had no experience taking those courses. But the key is to be kind of very thorough, so you can watch all the videos, and you need to have a textbook as a reference so that you can study the topic more or deeper to get all the details. All right. You can get free digital textbooks from the internet, so you actually don't need to spend any money on this. A good resource is called OpenStax. Okay, so you can just Google or search OpenStax, and it should take you to their website. So their textbooks are of pretty good quality. They're definitely sufficient for the TEAS. And you can find AP textbook and the biology textbook. So the biology, there's a one for major, non-major. Both are okay. If you want to know a little bit more, the major one would be better. All right. In my video series, I'm going to try to go a little bit slowly, just in case that you don't have any, or very little prior knowledge in AMP and biology. So feel free to fast forward if you're pretty familiar with the topic already. So it's really, you can do it on your own pace. All right. Now, videos can be a little bit boring, right? Especially, the videos can be quite long. I'll try to make it, last or around 20 minutes. But again, that's kind of long time that you have really focus on. So I suggest that you find ways, whatever methods you use, to keep yourself engaged and focused. So don't get too much distracted. In my videos, sometimes I'll ask you to use your own body as a model. So I may say, feel or touch this structure on our body. So do that. This will, again, keep you focused on the video, and also it helps you memorize things. I have questions after each topic as like practice. A lot of times I found that some students who think they understand the concept, but they actually don't. And the only way to find that out is to practice with the questions. All right, so let's get started. We're going to start with the anatomy and physiology because this is where the majority of the questions come from. And today, lesson 1 is going to cover tissues, organs, and organ systems. So you can find information on this lesson in the official study manual, and it's going to be in section 1.1 in the science part. Okay. Oh, a quick note. I have moved the information on the cell to a later video where we're going to talk about the life and the physical sciences. So today we're not going to look at the cell, but we will look at the cell later. Ooh, some of my notes are still here. All right, so the first topic we're going to look at is the hierarchy of structures and functions in our body. So you can see there are quite a few levels, from atoms, the smallest level, to the individual organism. Now, from atoms to organelle, that's the chemical level. And it's followed by the cells, which is the cellular level. Now, we're going to look at these two when we talk about the life and physical sciences. All right, so I'm going to save that for later. So today we're going to look at the higher levels, starting from tissues. Now, what are tissues? So tissues are made up of groups of cells, similar cells, that perform a common function, the same function. So there are four major types of tissues. The first one is epithelium or epithelial tissue. So epithelial tissue has two main types. So first type, they form coverings. So it could be external covering, like the superficial layer of your skin, or it could be internal covering. So when you think about your digestive tract, it's really a long kind of tube-like structure, right? Starting from your oral cavity all the way to anus. So that tract has an inner lining, and that inner lining is made up of epithelial tissue. The second type of epithelial tissue is glandular tissue, which means that they form glands and they secrete things. So the main function is secretion. So they may secrete a lot of things. When we talk about the skin, you will see that the oil gland secretes sebum, right? And then your sweat glands secretes sweat. So the various of glands of your digestive tract secretes, right, digestive enzymes, right? Or there are some other substances in the digestive juice as well. So that's glandular epithelium, and they secrete different substances. All right, now the second type of tissue is connective tissue. Connective tissue is widely distributed in our body. You can pretty much find connective tissue everywhere, maybe not in the brain, but everywhere else. And there's a variety of connective tissues, and they may look very different than each other. So let's look at here. Let me move this. So when you look at this section right here, connective tissue, so that includes something that's really hard, which is bone, right? And then something that's a little bit softer, but also very, very tough, like ligaments and tendons. But there's also some connective tissues that are really soft, like adipose tissue, which is basically fat, right? When you see adipose, that really just means a fat tissue. And there's also some other soft padding tissue that's also connective tissue. There's one type of connective tissue that's missing from this list is blood. And you know blood is mostly fluid, right? So you can see that connective tissue really covers a wide range of different types of tissues. All right, now the third type of tissue is muscle tissue. Now this one you're very familiar with, right? When you think about animals, right, a lot of people really like to eat meat. So that the meat you're eating is skeletal muscle. We also have skeletal muscles as well, and this is how you can move things. This is how you generate movement. But besides skeletal muscle, we also have cardiac muscle. So based on the name that you know, this is the muscle that you find in the heart, right? So the cardiac muscles contract and relax, and this is how your heart can beat and pump blood. We also have smooth muscle. This is not something that everybody is very familiar with because you cannot consciously control the smooth muscle, but you do have them. Usually they're in the visceral organs, so they're in the walls of those organs. So the smooth muscle also contracts, but they contract more slowly, more kind of like gradual. I'll give you an example. So when a woman gives a birth, right, the uterus is going to contract. So what specifically, contracts, and that's really the smooth muscle in the wall of the uterus that contracts. All right, the last type of tissue is nervous tissue. Now, this is probably something you're pretty familiar, right? Where do you find the nervous tissue? In the nervous system. So the nervous system includes the brain, the spinal cord, and nerves. All right, let's go back. So multiple types of tissues, usually two, but most often all four tissues will make up an organ, right? Like this, what's shown here is the stomach. So those tissues will work collectively to perform a common purpose, common function, right? The next level is organ systems. So the organ systems usually consists of multiple organs. And again, they work together and they have a common purpose, right? So for example, what's shown here is the digestive system. So that includes, you can see a few organs shown here, the liver, the stomach, that's the esophagus right there. And we have small intestine and then large intestine. So those organs work together to perform or with a common purpose, right? Which is break down food, absorb nutrients, and excrete, get rid of the indigestible food stuff. All right. Now, with multiple organ systems, that forms the individual living organism. Okay. So that's the levels of organizations. All right. Now let's go over the organ systems. Okay. So I have some tables over here. First, we're gonna start with the integumentary system. So the integumentary system is mostly, it's already there, mostly skin, but also includes the kind of accessory structures such as hair, nails, and also glands. It's not listed here, but glands like the will glands and the sweat glands. So the function for the integumentary system includes body covering, right? That's very important. Your internal environment is really moist, so you need skin to cover it. So that forms a boundary between the internal environment and the external environment. So you have a physical barrier to keep the moisture inside so you don't get dehydrated. And this also kind of prevents foreign invaders to enter your body. So that brings us to the next function, protection. This one is very interesting. So your skin can actually synthesize the vitamin D when the UV light hits your skin. So this is actually pretty important because you need the vitamin D to promote the healthy bone, right? Healthy bones, because the vitamin D promotes the absorption of calcium. You also have a bunch of receptors in the skin. So the cutaneous refers to skin. So with the receptors, you can feel, temperature change, you can feel touch, you can feel pain. So we already talked about glands. Okay. All right, the next body system is the skeletal system. So that includes bones and joints. Again, protection, right? Bones, cartilage, they're really hard, so they can definitely protect your inner organs. Like your brain is protected by your skull, right? Which is a very strong structure. Movement, so with the muscles, your bones serve as levers. So your muscles can move your bones, and this is how you generate movement. Blood cells are actually produced in your skeletal system, in the bones, and specifically in the red bone marrow. So that's a pretty amazing fact. Your skeletal system, your bones also store fat or lipid. They're the same thing, almost the same. A lot of people use them interchangeably. It also stores minerals. So for example, calcium and the phosphates. So those are the two major minerals that are stored in the bones. Next is the muscular system. So that specifically refers to the skeletal muscle. All right, so it doesn't include cardiac muscle or smooth muscle, only skeletal muscle. So this is related to functions such as movement, right? Locomotion, this is how you keep your posture, and also heat production, because when your skeletal muscles contract, it generates heat. All right, next system is the nervous system, right? That's the central control of our body. So that includes brain, I'll talk about this, brain, spinal cord, and nerves. All right, so we have cranial nerves and spinal nerves. So the nervous system really functions in receiving, processing the information from both internal and external environments, and then it kind of integrates the information and it decides what to do. So that's why we call it the control center of the body. So in contrast to the endocrine system, which uses hormones to coordinate, our body functions, nervous system is the fast-acting control system. So you can respond to a stimulus really, really fast. Whereas the endocrine system, because it has to use hormones of chemical messengers, and also it takes time for the hormones to transport to a specific body part, and it elicits some response. So endocrine system is the kind of slow acting control system. Endocrine is slow, but our nervous system is the fast acting control system. Next system is cardiovascular. So cardio refers to the heart, and the vascular, that refers to your blood vessels. Okay. So the cardiovascular system transports blood. Why do you need to transport blood? You all know that blood flows through your body, right? But why do we need the blood flowing through our body? Because they deliver nutrients and oxygen, and they also remove wastes such as carbon dioxide and some of the other metabolic wastes. So that's a very critical function for our body. All right, next one is the immune lymphatic system. So the immune functions are closely linked to the lymphatic system. So that's why we are going to put them together and then talk about different aspects of those two systems. So that includes lymph nodes. Some people are probably familiar with lymph nodes, and when you have infections, those lymph nodes can be like swollen, right? You can actually feel some of the lymph nodes. Okay. Red bone marrow, and why is this part of the immune system or the lymphatic system? And that's because this is where your blood cells are produced, right? Including white blood cells, which are involved in immune functions. Thymus. Thymus is also part of the system, and that's because this is where one type of your immune cell called the T cell. So this is where T cells mature. Right? And there's another type of cell, B cell. B cell actually, these B cells actually produce antibodies. So we have B cells, we have T cells. Those are important immune cells. All right, now you know the function is protection against pathogens. All right. Now, there's an additional function to lymphatic system, which is to pick up fluid leaked from blood vessels. So your blood vessels, the walls are actually not leak proof, especially the little blood vessels. Now, I'm not talking about the very big arteries. Those, they have really thick walls. But when you look at very small blood vessels, especially capillaries, right? Those capillaries have very thin walls, and sometimes it's just only one layer of cells. So it's very easy for fluid from the blood to leak out of the blood vessels and accumulate in the tissue. So you need a system to pick up those leakage, right, and then return that fluid back to your blood. So this is the job for a lymphatic system. And while the lymphatic system is transporting the fluid, it will go through, multiple inspection stations, which are lymph nodes, as an example. And then the immune cells in the lymph nodes can inspect the fluid. So if there are any pathogens, then they will get down to work and try to, destroy those pathogens. Next one is the respiratory system. So you're familiar with this. This includes your respiratory tract, right, from your nasal cavity, and also you can breathe from oral cavity as well. So that's also part of the respiratory system, all the way to the lungs. Okay? So the function for the respiratory system is gas exchange. You need to take in oxygen and get rid of carbon dioxide. All right, next one is digestive system. I didn't put all the structures here because there are a lot of organs in that system. So I have an image right here. So this is digestive system, so all the way from your oral cavity, right, down your esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, but there are also some accessory organs. So for example, the liver is also part of the digestive system. And then this little green sac, that's the gallbladder that stores bile temporarily. Okay. All right, next one, urinary system. So this system consists of kidney, right? You have two kidneys, you have two ureters, one bladder, and one urethra. So urinary system is actually very, very critical because it gets rid of the metabolic waste our body generates, right? You're going through metabolism every second, and those chemical reactions will generate metabolic waste, and you need to get rid of them because they can be toxic to cells if their concentrations get too high. So this is the job of our urinary system. So basically your kidneys will filter blood. Blood, remember, transports everything, right, including your metabolic waste. So as blood goes through your kidneys, the kidneys will filter the blood and pull out the metabolic wastes and basically put them in urine. So when you urinate, you get rid of the wastes in your body. Now, the urinary system, mostly kidneys, also regulate the balance of water, electrolytes, and acid and base. So we're going to talk about that in detail when we get to the urinary system. Next one, reproductive system. So the organs are going to be different, right, between males and the females. So the general goal for the reproductive system is production of offspring, right? So the male and the female structures will make gametes. So basically for males, that's sperm, right? For female, that's egg. So the reproductive system will make these gametes, and then there are also other structures that are involved in kind of delivering or transporting the gametes or secretion of substances that can kind of maintain the health of those gametes. So for example, your semen fluid has a lot of nutrients to keep the sperm active until they get into the female body and find the egg. All right, the last system we're going to look at is the endocrine system. So the endocrine system, again, consists of multiple organs that really spread out in your body. So basically, those organs make hormones, and that's the chemical messenger in our body. And this is kind of how your organs talk to each other, how they communicate, right? They can't really talk like us. So how do they communicate? They communicate via chemicals, right? So we call them chemical messengers, and these are hormones. So the endocrine system consists of, like I said, multiple organs. So it starts from your brain, actually. So you have pituitary gland, and also this is missing here, hypothalamus. So hypothalamus secrete hormones that regulate the pituitary gland. And then the pituitary gland, again, secretes other hormones to regulate other organs. Actually, in the brain, you also have pineal body. So pineal body or pineal gland, either way, secretes melatonin. Now, some of you probably know what melatonin is. If you have trouble sleeping, some people use melatonin. So it's secreted by the pineal body, also in your brain. So you actually have three structures in the brain that are part of the endocrine system. And you have a thyroid gland, which secretes a thyroid hormone. Pancreas, it secretes insulin, right? Everybody knows insulin, but you might not know that insulin is produced by the pancreas. Pancreas also secretes glucagon, which almost has the kind of the opposite effect as insulin. So we'll talk about that in details. Adrenal gland, adrenaline rush, right? That's adrenaline secreted by adrenal glands. And then you have testes, ovaries, which are male and female reproductive organs. So they secrete sex hormones. All right, so that's all the body system. Now let's work through some questions and see whether you actually understand. Question 1, I'll give you a few seconds. All right, this should be an easy question. Anytime you see hormones, you need to think about endocrine system. Okay, so the correct answer is C. So again, this shows you that the endocrine system really regulates a variety of processes, functions in your body. So it can regulate growth, development, metabolism. So it's almost like your nervous system, right? That can coordinate different parts of your body. Number 2. All right, so which system acts as a barrier to prevent entry of foreign pathogens? So when you look at entry of foreign pathogens, you know that they have to go through your skin, right, to enter your body, except for some of the openings. But most of the times they need to go through the skin to enter your body. So if you have intact skin, then they cannot get through. But if you get a cut or something like that, then that provides an opportunity for things like bacteria to enter your body, which may make you sick. Another thing is you might think about this. The skin helps regulate body temperature. Yes, skin does. So think about, let's say you are working out vigorously. What will happen to you? Your face is very red, right? If you touch it, it's kind of hot, and you're sweating. So skin can regulate your body temperature through blood and also the activity of sweat glands. So we'll talk about those in details. Okay. Next one. So I put number 3 and number 2 on the same page because they actually talk about the same system, same belly system. And the correct answer is also integumentary system. Melanin. Melanin is a body pigment. Okay, so we have different skin colors, right? And that's actually due to how much melanin you have in your skin. So if you have darker skin, that means you have more melanin. So melanin is very important to us because they absorb UV radiation. So you don't have UV radiation that can penetrate your cell and damage DNA. So melanin is found in our skin. Another function, our skin produces vitamin D, right? When your skin is exposed to UV radiation. Number 4. All right, so hopefully you got the correct answer, and that's urinary system, right? There were some keywords there. Get rid of metabolic wastes. So even though you don't know what dialysis is, when you see these words, you immediately think about the urinary system because the kidneys get rid of those metabolic wastes such as urea, uric acid. They are just metabolic waste from proteins and nucleic acids. So the correct answer is a urinary system. Now, what is dialysis? So dialysis basically involves a machine called a dialysis machine to filter your blood. Question 5. So this question asks which of the following statements correctly matches a body system with its function. So I'm going to actually go backwards. So let's look at D first. The endocrine system transports hormones from place to place within the body. Now we know that the endocrine system does have something to do with hormones, but the system does not transport hormones, right? The system produces or secretes hormones, right? So now it comes to this question. So how are the hormones transported within your body? because there are basically chemicals, right? So a lot of times the hormone needs to travel quite far, right, to affect a target organ. So in your body, everything, pretty much everything, is transported in blood, right? So that includes gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, metabolic wastes. So think of blood as the kind of transporting or transport system in your body. So everything is transported by blood, including hormones, right? So for example, the thyroid hormone secreted by the thyroid gland, which is located in the neck, right, can travel via blood into the rest of the body, right? Because the thyroid gland has a broad effect on metabolism. So it pretty much affects every single cell in your body. All right, so this statement is not correct. All right, now C, the excretory system. So basically, this means urinary system. Sometimes the TEAS uses kind of some terms that we don't see a lot in the common A&P textbooks. So this system prevents harmful substances from entering the body. Now that's not right, right? We'll just look at that question related to this. So it's actually the integumentary system. Integumentary, which is mostly skin, right? A physical barrier that prevents harmful substances from entering your body. That includes not only pathogens, right? For example, bacteria, but also harmful chemicals or UV radiation. All right, B, the respiratory system transports oxygenated blood throughout the lungs and body. Now, let's not worry about the oxygenated part yet, okay? So does the respiratory system transport blood or not? And the answer is no, right? We know the respiratory system involves in gas exchange. So that mostly takes place at the lungs. Now, at the lungs, it is blood that delivers carbon dioxide to the lungs and takes away oxygen. But that's a gas exchange, right? The lungs don't transport blood. So what actually transports blood? I'm just going to do it here. It's actually the cardiovascular system, right? The heart pumps blood, and that gives the blood the force to kind of flow through your body, right? So that's what the heart does. And then the vascular system, the blood vessels, transports blood. All right, so B is not correct. A, the digestive system facilitates absorption of substances into the bloodstream. So that's correct. Now, even though that's not the full statement of the functions of the digestive system, right? The digestive system first breaks down food to smaller molecules, which we call nutrients, and then those nutrients will be absorbed. So this is what the statement is about, into the bloodstream. Why bloodstream? Because this is how those nutrients can be transported or distributed throughout your body, right? They have to be transported or carried by the blood so that they can get into different parts of your body.